Hello, Ryan here, and welcome to Star Citizen Sunday. This is a weekly show which covers all of the news from the week just past. Be sure to subscribe if you like what you see, and let's get on with it. This week, Invictus launch week kicks off, the RSI Scorpius goes on sale, plus we see the progress on colonialism homesteads, Orison, and more. So this week's Inside Star Citizen began by looking at the new RSI Scorpius. Now this is the latest concept sale, and it is a heavy fighter from Robert Space Industries, and with the Scorpius they are trying to keep the RSI styling interesting but also breathe new life into the brand. They have a lot of fighters currently in Star Citizen which cover a wide range of combat styles, but they think that the two-person heavy escort fighter category doesn't have so many, which is where the Scorpius falls under. When designing the Scorpius, they were focused on silhouettes, and they've been wanting to introduce the more classic common sci-fi shape of the X-Wing, which is so synonymous throughout the sci-fi genre, and they felt the Scorpius was a good one to choose. Now the Scorpius is a two-person ship with a pilot and remote turret gunner, both accessing the ship via a side ladder. The biggest difference for the Scorpius to other ships is that the turret can track round to the underside of the ship and face backwards, providing additional rear protection. One benefit of this turret is that the screen will always be the same way up as it gimbals, so you won't be upside down, which is a nice touch. Now they purposely designed it not to provide all-round cover to help with balancing, but the pilot does have access to 4 size 3 mounts, which come equipped with 4 size 2 gimbaled weapons by default, plus 2 missile racks each carrying 4 size 2 missiles. Of course, you could remove the size 3 gimbals for the weapons and put 4 size 3 fixed weapons. Whether or not you can change the missile racks, I don't think so, but maybe there will be some upgrades in the future, we will see. Now the gameplay this provides is that the pilot can focus on flying and attacking anything within his frontal arc, and the co-pilot can then protect the rear. As it says, it is kind of an escort security ship, so you do have quite a good range of protection there if you are escorting anyone. Now they did state that they are trying to make it so that getting more people in one ship is more beneficial over using multiple ships, and as they further develop and improve multi-crew, we should start seeing ships like the Scorpius become more useful and effective. Personally, I do like the look of the Scorpius. We'll have to give it a full-on test, which isn't going to be ready until next year, I believe, and with the release date of it being quite far off, I will probably not pick one up yet, or even upgrade anything. Not until we get it in our hands anyway. So next up we have a new sprint report. First up, it is checking out the hospitals. Here we can see the Brentworth Hospital in New Babbage, which is currently in final art phase. These have moved along really quickly, putting that Montreal team into the mix of things. And as you can see here, things are really starting to come together with these sprints more focused on polish passes, just ensuring everything works together and really sells that scene. Members of the Planet Tech team have been doing some R&D sprints to explore improved canyons for future locations. Now this isn't an actual planet we will see in the verse, it is a prototype zoo to help test many options at once, with this particular test to develop a better way to reduce the stretching and artifacting that happens when stretching the height maps too high or too low. Now these new tests are designed to add geometry breakup on the surface to reduce the stretch marks, and these experiments are the next step to creating more dynamic surfaces for Star Citizen's planets and moons, and will only continue to get better looking and more realistic. I'm really happy that they are now starting to look into bigger height map options, so having really high mountains and really deep canyons. I think that's going to really sell the sci-fi feel of this game, as right now it's quite limited on how far either way they can go. For the colonialism homesteads, the props team recently developed plants. Now the teams are looking into the potential for indoor personal harvestables that players can pick, plus the various stages of all of the plants at different stages of life and death, meaning that we will need to keep them alive. I love that idea, although if we have multiple homes with lots of plants in them, are we going to need to hire a gardener? I don't know. Anyway, for the homesteads themselves, they are currently working through Greybox now, as you can see with this internal review, and they are looking insanely cool. It will not be long until we start finding AI living in all these little homes and eventually building them for ourselves. Also, Jared did mention that we will see more of this planet in the background in the next quarter, so it is likely a planet for Pyro maybe? Could be Nyx, but I'm going to guess at Pyro. Finally, we got to see the most current work on Orison, with the visual effects team bringing Orison's nighttime to life. Once this is laid in with the finished lighting pass and nighttime gas clouds in the background, it will look truly special, and I 100% agree. So some great work going on with Homesteads and Orison. Pretty decent episode of Inside Star Citizen, but let's move on to Star Citizen Live. So this week's Star Citizen Live was in celebration of Invictus launch week, answering questions specifically related to military vehicles. The first question is, what separates a military vehicle from a civilian version? And they say it's no one thing, but a combination of many. Gameplay-wise, military vehicles are more focused on offensive firepower, they have more weapons, bigger weapons, and so on. Defensively, they may have more armor or have greater countermeasures. Military ships also have differing onboard facilities like captains or XO quarters or a brig. So it's a combination of stats, roles, usage, and internals. Next question, are there future plans for more military grounded vehicles or even alien military ground vehicles? Now they definitely want to do more and are looking into this, but they can't give any specifics at this time. Very sneaky. Next question, what military vehicles do you feel are still missing? Now they don't specify exactly what classes of ships or vehicles are missing, but they did say there are a few gaps. They also want to provide more choice, as one ship option in each class is not enough, and not the intention. For example, the Nautilus, stating that they intend to bring in other ships capable of laying different sized mines that aren't the same size as the Nautilus, so do expect more choice for similar rolled ships, as they say choice is a big importance in Star Citizen. Next question is, can the Scorpius turret be slaved to the pilot? And yes, it can, so long as you use a blade, CPU blade. But this will lock the weapons to only forward facing. But that's good to know. That's a lot of firepower for a pilot. Next question, there was mention of a military troop transporter Genesis Starliner, as well as a Star Hunter and Star Seeker. Are these vehicles still planned? Now they said that they have a lot of in-law ships and they will make some of them, but they don't intend to create every ship that has been mentioned in the lore. In regards to the Starliner, they will start with the Starliner and then look to see what other options make sense, but there are no confirmations. Next question is simply Polaris ? Now it's not in active development at this time, but they have recently done a complete concept update pass, so it's ready for production. Everything has been worked out and they also pulled in a lot of Bengal references. The Polaris did get slightly bigger as well, which means it can carry a standard fighter ship like a Gladiator, Sabre, or even a Scorpius when the wings are folded up. Same question kind of for the Pegasus. Any updates on this ship? And they say it is still planned but primarily used for Squadron 42, but not for episode 1, so it might be Squadron 42 episode 2 or 3, and because of that there is no movement on this at all. Next question, do you plan on a military ambulance Land Rover style vehicle? Quite specific. And yes, they have considered it, but no other word than that. But I will say, I think it's quite safe to say that we will see all manner of ships and ground vehicles for pretty much all professions making their way into the verse as and when necessary. Somebody asked about the Karak antenna and bridge armor. Are there any updates on this? Now the antenna will come when jump points are in, they don't need them beforehand, and the shutters or the bridge armor is still being developed. They have modelled it and got it concepted, but nothing to go forwards with yet. Regarding the Karak, they have actually made some significant performance updates, which they will eventually roll out to all the other ships as well, and for 3.13.1, statistically speaking, you can now get 2 Karaks on screen for the performance cost of 1. Which is obviously a good thing. Somebody asked about the Crusader Jupiter carrier. Will we ever see this? This was a ship that was mentioned in lore quite a while ago, and currently they say it is just a lore ship. One day may be, I guess, but it's not guaranteed and it is not currently planned. Next question, are the Javelin and other military ships for the Invictus week finished, as we are now able to tour them? And they say no, the interiors are not all complete. What we get to see is just the rooms that are complete to some degree, but they are still intended to be for Squadron 42 first, rather than released in the PU. But things like the seats and the stations, they don't have their functionality yet. Will the Prowlers' stealth capabilities be addressed with the new radar and scanning system? And they say yes, This new system is a large change that will make the system nothing like what we have now, so all the ships will behave differently to what they do currently. It'll probably take a few patches, they say, to get the Prowler and other ships where they want them to, which includes stealth capabilities, so a lot of changes coming to the vehicles in the next few patches, which they expect will need quite a bit of balance passes as well. Next question, are there plans for ocean-based vehicles? And John Cruz says, maybe. Somebody asked why did they remove the kitchen from the M2 Hercules. Now they said it was a bit of a mistake. They will look to bringing in some form of food making capabilities for the M2 in the next few patches, but don't expect the full kitchenette like we see in the C2. With the physical damage model, will the strength of the ship's armor be defined by the material and thickness? And are special materials for military ships planned? And will we be able to change the armor for our ships? So yes, there will be different materials for military and civilian ships, even down to the variant material options. For the first rollout of the physical damage and material system though, we won't be able to swap these out, but this will be up for debate in the future. Now John Crew did say that it'll be quite an apocalyptic change when this system comes in. The meta DPS values won't matter anymore, it'll be targeting specific areas, disabling ships and then doing something with them. This is one of my most anticipated features for Star Citizen. It'll just be incredible seeing this all in action. Talking of which, the next question has a similar answer, and it is, what is the time to kill for ships supposed to be? Now they said it's too difficult to answer with so much coming into play, but it certainly won't be the 10 to 15 seconds like it is right now. The experience will take much longer and will be more intense and exciting, and players will heavily factor into this. Having engineers, good pilots, gunners, their ability and the teamwork that's involved will all play into this. Currently, the only outcome of a dogfight is an explosion and somebody dying. With the physical damage and material system, the chance of this happening is radically reduced, as it'll only really happen if a critical shot is taken to, say, the power plant. You will be far more likely to be disabled and boarded, salvaged, or tracked away. And if you are on board and your ship is disabled, you'll then need to figure out what to do next. Like, do you repel the boarders? Do you surrender? Do you just hide and hope they don't find you, or do you call for backup? So it will change everything, and I have done a separate video on the physical material system, which I will link in the description below if you want to learn more. Next question is, medium fighters are in a bit of an awkward place right now. Are there plans to make them more viable? And they say yes, the changes to radars and scanners, the capacitors as well, which actually will be rebranded and renamed in the future. They are basically changing the stats on every single vehicle and ship, from handling, health, weapons and ammo counts. Basically, huge changes will shuffle everything around and hopefully put all the ships in a good place, more where CIG intend them to be, making all the ships more viable in their roles. And this should be coming in with 314. So the Nova Tonk's gun has a 1.5 kilometer range. It seems a little short. Will this change? And they say yes, this will definitely be addressed in a future patch. Is there anything planned for the Gladiator, as it seems a bit redundant? Now yes, they are aware that it's not in the ideal state. It has had a bit of a stat boost recently. I think it was a couple of patches back, and they have fixed many of the flaws that it had, and eventually they will update the turret to the new standard as well. Next question, what's missing in-game to make using a dropship more viable over just clown carring people into other ships? One reason will be the life support system, which will be tuned to the specific ship and intended crew count. So having more people on board than is intended will make the scrubbers and life support machine work much harder and use much more air than it can produce. Also, force reactions and staggers will probably be the biggest reason. We are seeing more and more how erratic flying can cause injury to someone who is not sat down inside of a ship. Dropships specifically will heavily be used in, say, militarized zones where erratic piloting might be required, alongside taking shots from flak, missiles and so on. So those on board who are not sat or strapped in, which the dropship does offer, will be flung around and injured. Will the Nova Tonk fit in the Polaris? And they say if you can load it in from the top somehow, then yes it will. Will you revisit the Vanguard landing gear now that you have the tank tracks? And they say they do plan to revisit all the ships with wheels and tracks, so you can do rolling taxiing and takeoffs, but it's not a priority at all right now. Why does the Terrapin have 2 seats but only 1 bed is the next question. and it's because it is a one-person ship. You are not expected to be flying around and scanning at the same time. And then the final question is, how is the player-facing modularity looking and coming along? Now, they say in the near future they will be working on this, starting with the Retaliator. As we know, they are currently working on the tech to make it functional, after which they will look into the modules. Now, the current tech issue they have is the links between the modules and the parent ship, and this feature unfortunately was actually temporarily removed from the roadmap, so hopefully we will see it reappear in the not too distant future. Anyway, that was Star Citizen Live. Some good questions, some good answers there, and let's move on. So also this week, as I'm sure you're all aware, Invictus launch week has begun, and this is a week-long event celebrating the UEE Navy and all the other armed forces in the game. Each day at the Tobin Expo Center in New Babbage on Microtech, the ship manufacturers display many of their vehicles, all military orientated, as well as a chance to tour an Aegis Javelin destroyer and check out the RSI Bengal carrier as they make their way around the Stanton system. Now, this event will run until June the 1st, at which point the players can rent for free all the many ships and vehicles on display from each manufacturer, with a free fly currently ongoing until the 3rd of June. What this means is that you can try Star Citizen for free without needing to spend a thing. Simply use the link below to create an account, and make sure that you use a referral code as well, as you get some extra credits plus a little kickback for the owner of the code. A referral code is displayed in the top corner of this video if you don't have a friend's code to use. Then you download the alpha and you can try out all of the ships on display for free, letting you experience the current playable alpha, allowing you to make a decision whether the game is for you or not. The RSI Scorpius was officially revealed as well this week and offered up for a concept sale. I won't delve into it here, but likely create a separate video for this ship, as it also has its Q&A answering questions that we may have for the ship itself. The roadmap was updated, which I have covered in a separate video already, of which is linked in the description below. And finally, the latest edition of Showdown is available. This week's episode was debating the merits of Invictus Week and its celebrations. So that brings us to the end of the show. If you do enjoy my content, please consider subscribing and hitting that like button. Also, I am able to do this thanks to my very generous patrons and channel members. If you appreciate what I do and would like to help make it even better from as little as $1 a month, all of the links are provided below.